Where there's grief, there is an invitation for self-nurturing. The holidays may bring grief for the family you never had, the family you always hoped it would be, but it's not. The version of you that worked so hard to make it magical, the relationships that didn't become what you hoped for, people missing from the table this year, the heartbreak that you're carrying quietly. And that grief, no matter what it is, it deserves care and it deserves attunement. So this year, let's send in your conscious adult just as much as you can. The one who isn't trying to prove, fix, or please. Welcome to Grow with Robin Breckenridge, a podcast about stepping into the most fully expressed, aligned, and conscious version of yourself. Here, we dive into the real work of personal growth, establishing boundaries, understanding your patterns, building self-trust, healing emotional wounds, and creating relationships that feel safe, authentic, and fulfilling. I'm Robin, a life and relationship coach, and in each episode, we'll explore the tools, insights, and conversations that will help you not just improve your life and relationships, but truly transform them. You don't have to just go through it. Let's grow through it, and let's do it together. Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining me and for being a part of my mission, which is to help reduce suffering for as many human beings as I can, because I myself have suffered. And I know that these tools that I am so blessed to be able to share with my clients and now on this podcast have been so helpful and useful in improving my life and relationships. So on that note, the holidays are here. And if you're in the US and you're listening in real time, there's a holiday tomorrow. So in most professions, things start to slow down at this time of the year, but not in mine. This tends to be a very busy time of the year for me. The beginning of the year tends to be a very busy time of the year for me because holidays and family of origin stuff is complex. I always tell people, if you can emotionally regulate in your family of origin, if you can have boundaries in your family of origin, guess what? The rest, cakewalk. The hardest places to have those tend to be in your family of origin, which means that we need support sometimes navigating. That's why I'm a little bit busier during the holiday season. So if you're heading into this holiday feeling a mix of maybe excitement and dread, you're definitely not alone. It is very common for this time of the year to bring out feelings in your parts of self, your inner child's hope, maybe your inner teenager's edge. And if that's true for you, you're still not alone. Maybe you're already anticipating the comments, the unsolicited advice, the uncomfortable conversations, the pressure to overextend or overfunction. Those old roles creeping back in like clockwork. So this episode is a big old reminder. This episode is here to remind you, you get to do things differently this year. And not just because this is a boundary episode, but because you are not the same person you were last year. Maybe you have a different level of awareness. Maybe you've been implementing some of these things in your life. You're not the same person. You don't have the same awareness and consciousness as the person that walked into that same holiday event last year. You've done some work. You've learned about your nervous system. You've met your inner child and your inner teen. You've built some awareness of your patterns. And maybe you trust yourself just a little bit more than you did before. So this year, we are going to stop hustling to belong in rooms or in relationships that actually need more boundaries than effort. So let's get into it. The holidays are nostalgic, can be chaotic, and often wildly idealized. They can hold dysfunctional family systems, grief, fantasy, unspoken rules, unhealed wounds, original wounders, generational cycles, roles we never agreed to, and sometimes hope. Hope that maybe this year will be different or better, or finally the family, the holiday, the connection that we always wanted. And because the holidays are loaded with symbolism and longing, it makes complete sense that you might feel activated. So I want to remind you, feeling activated does not mean you're regressing. It means that threat detector in your body, that nervous system, it's doing its job. It means that your nervous system is scanning for safety or a lack of safety. Maybe it's whispering or screaming to you what feels familiar, what feels like old pain, what feels like the potential for self-abandonment, and maybe where there's a need for a boundary. Being activated doesn't mean you're doing it wrong or you're regressing. It's an alarm for self-support. So you know I am a life coach. I love to do action-oriented things. So let's jump in. I want you to think of this holiday season as an experiment, because there's a high likelihood you've never been this healthy of a version of yourself, this aware, this conscious. Now, it doesn't mean you went through the finish line of those things. Nope. Good luck. I've been doing this for 10 years, teaching it, working on myself longer. I haven't gotten through a finish line of anything. But it means that we can recognize that there are changes happening within you. So are we going to nail this holiday season? Is it going to be perfect? Are we going to be perfectly boundaried and take care of all parts of self? Probably not. But it is a great opportunity to collect data and do it different. Even if the only thing you do differently this year is think differently or observe differently. So before you walk into any gathering, I would love for you to pause. We're going to ask ourselves a few things. But the first one is, what part of me is up? Is it your inner child, hoping maybe somebody will finally notice her? Is it your inner teenager who's bracing to defend herself, roll her eyes, or shut down? Is it your maladaptive adult? Maybe the part of you that knows, that behavior is not aligned with my integrity, but it hits the fuck it button anyways. Or, and I'm so excited about this part, can you send in your conscious adult? The grounded, clear, aligned part of you who knows, I don't need to perform to be lovable. You don't need to prove, explain, or over disclose to anyone in the shared interest category. You can be kind and have boundaries. You can protect yourself without making other people wrong and being victimized. So this year, one of the things that we're going to do differently is you're going to let your conscious adult gently place a hand on your inner child's shoulder and say, I've got you. I will keep you safe. We can do this together. So one very concrete way that we can show up to protect our inner child this holiday season is before you walk into any event, any room, any relationship, that you consider, where does that person go in my boundary categories? Is this person in trust? Is this person in shared interest? Is this person in cordial? Is this person in no contact? High likelihood that a lot of people are going to be in your shared interest. And the shared interest is probably going to be family. It could be community. Maybe you're not spending this holiday season with your family. Maybe you're spending it with friends or community that you have. But I want you to think of, where does that person go in my boundary categories? If it's shared interest, I want you to rewind back to the shared interest episode and just brush up before you walk in the door. I told a story on here way back when we were talking about boundaries about a time that I walked into a party. And before I walked in, I sat in my car and I thought, okay, who goes where? And there was one particular person that was pretty activating for me. And I knew that I needed to be more discerning around this person. Discerning meaning good judgment. I remembered shared interest. Actually, I take it back. That person was in cordial. Everybody else was in shared interest in that event. And the person came up to me and kind of made a comment like, oh, I heard you're a life coach now, and kind of scoffed. And because that person was in cordial, and cordial means that the way that I'm going to interact with that person is, hi, how are you? And that's it. Because I'm not even interested in getting into a shared interest with that person. And because I had prepped, I wasn't caught off guard. I didn't need to have a part of self come on board to like protect me or help me. And I just said, yeah, I am. How are you? She goes, oh, I'm not good at all. And I knew that was a setup, by the way. I'm not trying to not have compassion. I knew that that was a setup for me to go, oh my gosh, what's going on? And this person to extract all of my lovely knowledge and feedback, and probably try to ask me to coach her or whatever. So I said, I'm so sorry to hear that. It was really nice to see you. And I kept going. And I remember thinking, ooh, this is a little bit awkward. And, time went on and I left the party and I got into my car and I had a little like celebration with myself where I went, wow, I didn't abandon myself so that I didn't seem awkward at a party, so that I didn't seem rude to me or to someone who has been, rude to me on many occasions. I was cordial and that was it. And that was true. It wasn't mean. I didn't handle it in a mean or cold way at all. So probably one of the best tools you can bring into your holiday season is just, where does this person go in my boundary categories? And then brush up. If they're in shared interest, remember there's principles in that category. And they're really great principles to follow. If someone is in cordial, it means we're not saying more than, hi, how are you? If you are in a conversation with someone and it's more than, hi, how are you? Then remember, the system is not to be rigid. The system is to be clear, adjust, back out of the conversation, politely smile and walk over somewhere else. Oh, I got to run to the bathroom. Whatever you need to do, get out of it. There's a reason someone's in cordial, but very, very common. People will tell me, oh, this person's in cordial. And I'll say, oh, okay, like what kind of interaction do you have with them? And they say, oh, well, see them at holidays. We text here and there. Remember, if it's more than, hi, how are you? You are in a shared interest with someone. And because I'm not trying to be a stickler about this, I'm trying to be clear. That's because you will likely end up in more of a connection or conversation with someone who isn't safe, or you're not interested in having a deeper relationship with. So one of the best boundary tools, hacks you can ever take with you anywhere is to think in advance and be intentional, which is of a high vibrational energy. Where are these people in my categories? And if there are some people where you're like, normally I would over disclose, or they always ask me questions or whatever, one of the most trusted, useful things that you can take out of this podcast is think about, what are the safe topics I can talk about with this person. Have them up and ready to go in your back pocket. Write them in the notes in your phone if you need to, and run to the bathroom and double check. This holiday season, we are becoming relational ninjas, which means that we are going to be able to pivot, bob, weave where we need to. We do not need anyone to be different than they are. we have different relational skills this year. So on that note, let me revisit a few of my favorite real-time boundary tools that you can bring with you this holiday season. My number one tool, and one that is a favorite of my clients, is eating invisible popcorn. What does that mean? It means you step into the observer role. You are simply watching the movie versus reacting to it. So it sounds like taking a dialogue that you might normally take outside of you and have a conversation with someone, like maybe you get into the mix of talking about politics or telling someone how ridiculous their views are or defending something. Listen, discernment means good judgment. If you know that having that conversation with that person would probably lead you to the same results of having that conversation with a wall, it's not worth it. So you are much better off to watch what they're doing, take that dialogue, keep it internal, talk to yourself like, wow, they just judged that person's outfit. Wow, they just commented on their weight again. Like whatever it is, it isn't your job to wake everybody up. It is not your job to teach everybody the basic skills of being a relational adult. Sometimes that's God's business, and we can leave that to the universe and God to figure out. So remember, when we're watching the invisible popcorn, it's not a place of we're sitting there in judgment of someone else. It's an observation. It's not to judge, but to create space between you and a reaction that will not impact an outcome and likely just cause more chaos and drama in your life. So I've said this on previous episodes. There has been many times in my professional career where people have sent me an emoji of a popcorn, or a popcorn emoji, and then a barf emoji, indicating I'm eating so much popcorn, I'm going to barf. I'm a fan of it. There's a lot of times where I've been places and the best thing I can do is observe, be in conversation with myself, and have discernment about what I partake and participate in. Second one, bite your tongue in your mouth. So many of us resonate with over disclosing to people that we don't trust, maybe because we really want the connection, maybe because it is awkward to not say anything. But what we know, and the boundary pyramid is such a great tool, is that shared interest category, we keep it relational by keeping it light. We are not over disclosing personal details of our life. Emotions that have a lot of vulnerability around them, even decisions. There are sometimes people are like, what are you going to do about your job? And you're like, I came here to have some dang pumpkin pie. Why do I don't know what I'm going to do with my job. And then we go into barfing up all this information. I'm not really sure. I don't know. I can't find another one. And then we just invite all of the opinions and the judgments and the comments. Listen, if you're in the middle of a decision, it's okay to keep that a little bit closer to your chest and wait to disclose that at a time where you have more clarity on it. So a great answer to that question might just be, working it out. How are you doing? But biting your tongue in your mouth is that little reminder to us to say less, to not over-explain, not teach, not prove, and to not give emotional labor to someone who is probably not interested. Now, if anybody listening is a client of mine, you know that I'm a big fan of buffers. I love a buffer. If we're around someone who we know can be activating, or we maybe just don't have that much in common with, buffer statements are soft exits that are really powerful. It could sound like, hey, I'm going to step outside to regroup real quick. It could sound something like, hey, I love you, but I'm not really open to discussing that right now. I'm also a fan of bringing humor in. That's not everybody's favorite thing to do. But if you are somebody who likes to bring humor in, I might say something like, oh my gosh, I love you, but I came here for the mashed potatoes. Like, I don't really want to get into that right now. So keep in mind that when we are setting boundaries, it doesn't always have to be like combative or awkward, or aggressive. It can simply be like that emotional ninja skill of just like ever so slightly directing the conversation in a different way. One of my favorites is, hey, let me think about that and get back to you. Give yourself some time. Just because somebody wants something from you, their urgency does not have to be your urgency. And let's remember the rule of threes when we're setting boundaries. Rule of threes: inform, restate more firmly, exit. Remember, it is always available to you to change the subject, end a conversation, or leave. Leave could be leave the conversation, leave the room, could be leave the event. But remember, if you are setting a boundary with someone who's pushing it and you need to repeat it more than 3 times, you're no longer setting a boundary. You're in a power dynamic and a power struggle. Remember that you can walk away and be kind and protect your peace. Now, here is one of the most important things that I'm going to say in this episode. Please do not go into the holidays this year expecting people to be different. Go in knowing you will be different. This year, your choices will be different. Your tolerance will be different. How you speak to yourself will be different. And how you respond will be different. And hear me out. Even if you're not able to execute it, the fact that your awareness is shifting, let me tell you, the ball is rolling. A beautiful guiding principle of that shared interest category is that if you don't trust someone, you can't have emotional expectations of them. When we expect someone to become emotionally mature at Christmas dinner, after a lifetime of not being emotionally mature, we set ourselves up for disappointment. When we expect someone to be respectful when all the data we have on them is that they're not. When we expect someone to parent themselves and not drink as much as previous years, and all the data we have is that every year they get drunk, they make a scene, they cause chaos, then that expectation, the only person it's going to burn is you. If someone has shown you who they are consistently, when the data you have is consistent, please don't walk in imagining a fantasy version of them. Listen, I am a big fan of miracles. I will never discount that sometimes miracles happen and people change. But a lot of times the catalyst for that change is that you asserted a boundary and you stayed at a higher level of consciousness, and that your self-value increased to the degree that you are no longer willing to participate in that bad behavior. That tends to make a bigger impact on people than us expecting them to be different or begging, pleading, teaching, pointing out, etc. I think that when we go back to the data that we've collected on someone, again, grief can come up, sadness can come up. You can also choose to not go if this is something that's really activating for you. But I think when we get our expectations into a place of alignment, we experience less disappointment. And again, now, after all we've talked about, there is this option of agency. Then now we get to choose how we want to interact with people, situations, groups. So just because you got healthier, unfortunately, doesn't mean everybody around you or everybody in your family got healthier. So nod and redirect, smile and excuse yourself, talk to your inner child internally, because obviously if I send you into your family systems talking to your inner child out loud, my podcast is probably going to get red flagged. So speak to yourself. Keep that internal dialogue supportive and kind. That is self-protection. So the last couple episodes, I've talked about an emotional regulation tool called AVPS. So we've talked about using the boundary pyramid. We've talked about having awareness and consciousness of your parts of self and what's activated. I just listed off some general boundary hacks that you can bring into the holiday season. But listen, the truth is sometimes we get activated. Sometimes our family system is still dysfunctional. Sometimes we're healthier and it's just hard to reacclimate. So remember, when you are activated, using the tool AVPS is a great way to emotionally attune to yourself. Maybe we go back into our family systems and people can't emotionally attune to us, but here's what's different now. You have the ability to emotionally attune to those parts of self. So remember, AVPS stands for A, acknowledge, V, validate. Validate means, of course, I feel like this, ... P means permit, which means that we do not try to intellectualize ourselves out of the feelings or negate the feelings or escape them. We just give them a little bit of space. And support means, hey, what can I do to support myself while I feel like this? Guys, I think we're on episode 35. We have 35 episodes of tools in this podcast that you can access anytime you want. Now, the cool thing about these tools is they're internal. Remember, the boundary pyramid is an internal boundary system. We don't need to talk to anybody about it. AVPS, internal system to emotionally attune to our parts of self, which means you can do it in the bathroom mirror. You can do it in your car. You can do it in quiet moments between conversations. Sometimes I put my hand on my heart, I put my hand on my stomach, and that's just my way of going like, it's okay. I'm here with you. We're going to get through this. The tools are here to help you stay connected to you. So there's a phenomenon that surrounds birthdays and holidays, which means that sometimes they activate grief. Sometimes in those situations, we notice who's not there, who didn't call us, who didn't reach out, who didn't show up. So I want to leave you with this. Where there's grief, there is an invitation for self-nurturing. The holidays may bring grief for the family you never had, the family you always hoped it would be, but it's not. The version of you that worked so hard to make it magical, the relationships that didn't become what you hoped for, people missing from the table this year, the heartbreak that you're carrying quietly, and that grief, no matter what it is, it deserves care and it deserves attunement. So this year, let's send in your conscious adult just as much as you can. The one who isn't trying to prove, fix, or please. The one that isn't trying to outsource love, attention, validation, approval. The one who leads with compassion without abandoning themselves. So here's your ultimate reminder. Your presence does not equal your availability. Boundaries are warm, loving lines of self-respect. You can stay kind without being boundaryless. You can protect your peace without guilt. So let this be the year that you don't shrink. Let this be the year you stay rooted in your worth. So whatever dish you're taking to the Thanksgiving dinner, make sure you got the boundary pyramid with you too. Review those episodes, brush up before you walk into the event. Take a moment in your car or before you leave to just think about, okay, who's going to be there? Who's historically been activating for me? Who do I feel uncomfortable with? Who do I feel comfortable with? Let's front end this by being discerning and intentional. Think about where people go in your categories. Brush back up on what those categories mean and how they inform you of how to show up in the healthiest way possible for you. I'm so glad you're here. I hope you have a wonderful holiday season. Personally, I kind of like to do themes for holidays because I don't know. If you can't tell, simplifying things and categorizing things tends to work with my brain. So this Christmas, this Thanksgiving season, it's conscious adult holiday season. That's our theme. This podcast is here for you. I'm here for you. We're all here for each other. This isn't easy stuff, but you can do it. You're brave. I'll see you next time. That's it for today's episode. Thank you so much for being here and for doing this work. If this episode resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Come connect with me over on TikTok at Robin Breckenridge or Instagram at Coach with Robin, where I share even more insights, tools, and conversations around boundaries, self-trust, relational healing, and so much more. And just a quick reminder, this podcast is for educational and personal growth purposes only. The insights and tools I share are based on my experience as a life and relationship coach and are meant for general guidance. Each person's story is unique, and the nuances of individual experiences can't always be addressed in this format. What's shared here may not be applicable to every situation, especially those involving abuse, oppression, severe mental illness, or systematic harm. If you or someone you know is in crisis, please seek support from a qualified mental health professional or emergency resources. Thank you for listening and for showing up for yourself in this way. Take care, and I'll see you next time.